grateful that you're all here with us. We want to start out this morning. Tony, you're supposed to come back this way. We're getting ready to start. Tony's going to lead us in our flag salute. He said that this would be one of the best ways to start out this ceremony, and I have to agree with him.
Yes, got it.
So if you all, Tony, take it over.
Okay. So, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a World War II veteran with us today, right here.
Thank you for your service.
Orrin Osteen, World War II. That's awesome.
All right.
Now we're going to call on VFW Chaplain Roger Robinson for an invocation.
Give her, please. Almighty God, Father of all mankind and Judge over all nations, we ask that you bless this memorial service in the hearts of those who are gathered here to pay tribute to those that have made the supreme sacrifice. And for the benefit of all free men and women, the lives of those who paid the sacrifice. In God we trust, and may the faith of our fathers guide, protect, and sustain our people. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all for coming. My name's Steve Bates. I'm the chair of the Committee on Memorials and Remembrance, which is affiliated with the Vietnam Veterans of America. Today we're here to honor two brothers who called Toledo home some 50 years ago. First one being Charles Eugene Johnson and his little brother, Clifford Thomas Johnson. Charles went to Toledo High School. He enlisted in the Navy in December 1961. He did 2 terms and was discharged in February 1966. He came back here to Toledo, but he re-enlisted in June 1967 and was in Vietnam by that October. He was a hospitalman. In other words, he was a Navy medic. He was assigned to help the Marines. Every Marine is happy to have a Navy medic behind him. Unfortunately, doing his job as a medic, Charles Eugene Johnson fell February 8, 1968. His little brother, Clifford, went to school here in Toledo, but he went to high school in Portland. Their father had a job that moved them to Portland, so Clifford actually spent his high school years up in Portland. Clifford was drafted into the Army and in a short time, Clifford was promoted to corporal and then sergeant. At the age of 21, Clifford was a sergeant, a leader of men, a platoon leader. He was good at what he did. He went to Vietnam in October 1970 and was wounded on December 7th, 1970 in an incident. He succumbed to those wounds 2 weeks later on December 26, 1970. Please join me in a moment of silence and prayer as we proceed to honor these two brothers, heroes who died in Vietnam. May they rest in peace.
Amen.
Many of you aren't aware of the Fallen Hero Memorial Highway Project. It was actually established in 2015 by the Oregon State Legislature. But it was because of a Gold Star father, Michael Thorpe. He lost his boy in Iraq, and he thought that there should be a way of honoring and remembering our fallen heroes. He worked with his representative, Andy Olson, and Representative Olson helped get the measure introduced, and it passed the House and then the Senate unanimously. The Committee on Memorials and Remembrance found out about this project and Senator Alan Olson introduced SCR 206 in 2016 for the Wright family in Boring, who also lost 2 sons in Vietnam. After we successfully completed that project, we decided that, well, we found out that there were 3 other families that lost 2 boys in Vietnam. 39 families nationwide lost 2 sons. 4 families in Oregon lost 2 sons, and we are working to honor all 4 families. The Wright family of Boring, the Johnson family here in Lincoln County, the Rowden family of Jackson County, and also the Evans family of Klamath County. Representative Gomberg, when he heard Representative Esquivel testify, or I should say speak on the House floor about the Rowden family of Jackson County, he made reference to that there was a family from Lincoln County, and Representative Gomberg came and sought me out after that session that day and actually said, well, we need to do something for the Johnson family, and it's because of Representative Gomberg that we're here today. He introduced House Concurrent Resolution 30 on behalf of the Johnson brothers and the Johnson family, and I'd like to have Representative Gomberg say a few words.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming out today. What a beautiful morning it is, and what a very special morning it is. And to those of you that have worn the uniform, I want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for your continuing service to our Oregon vets and to our country. To those of you that are family members of those that have worn the uniform, I want to thank you for your service and sacrifice as well. And today we really are here to talk about sacrifice, because as you heard, while there are a number of families here in Oregon that lost a son or a daughter in Vietnam, that there are only 4 families that lost 2 sons in Vietnam. One of them from here in Toledo. And as I involved myself in this process and began to draft legislation, and there's copies of the bills over here if you'd like to look at them, I learned what a unique situation this is. We have Charles Johnson, a Navy corpsman, who enlisted 3 times and died, was lost at the age of 23. His younger brother, Clifford, in the U.S. Army, lost at age 21. But of the 4 families in Oregon, we didn't find, I believe, another family where 2 different services were represented. That was unique, that was important. But there's something else, and that is when these 2 young men were lost, their family was lost as well, because there were no spouses, there were no children, their siblings passed away, and ultimately the Johnson family passed away. A family lost to Oregon through the sacrifice of these 2 brothers. I think that says something to the nature of their sacrifice and the loss that all of us sustain here. So I'm so very pleased that on the east end of Toledo, we're going to see these 2 signs, not 1 sign for 1 family, but 2 signs for 2 brothers who made the ultimate sacrifice. And that's going to remind people as they drive through our community of the kind of people that live here in Toledo and here in Lincoln County. But there's something else I want to say, because we are now at a different period in our American history. We are now at a point where we have had 16 years of sustained active combat. The longest period of active combat in our nation's history. And we have new generations of veterans, new generations of families that are losing loved ones, but also veterans that are coming home with new and unique challenges. You know, 7 out of 10 of the veterans here in Oregon are not enrolled in the programs that are designed to support them, to receive the support that they have earned, that they deserve, and often that they need. 7 out of 10. And we are seeing increasing levels of mental illness, of homelessness, of joblessness, and ultimately of suicide in a new generation of Oregon veterans. A serious, serious problem that we need to address. And that's why I was so pleased to see Measure 96 work its way through the last ballot that spoke to significantly increasing the amount of support that we give to Oregon veterans. And we brought that measure, that expectation from Oregon voters through the legislative process, ultimately funding veterans programs in Oregon, not at the $28 million that Oregon's expected when they passed Measure 96, but actually at about $31 million in programs that are going to provide mental health support and housing support and hotlines, and here in Lincoln County, additional veteran service officers in different parts of the counties, so that the support and the help and the camaraderie that people need and deserve is going to be available to them. So when we talk about sacrifice, certainly we recognize those that have served in the past, but I think it's important to remember those that are serving now, those that are continuing to serve, and the special needs that they bring home when they return to us. So again, I want to thank all of you for being out here today. It's a remarkable day, and I'm going to be very proud to see the 2 Johnson signs on the north end of Toledo, remembering a Johnson family that isn't here anymore, but reminding people on a daily basis of their sacrifice and their commitment, and to the nature of sacrifice that all veterans bring to our community. Thanks so very much.
Thank you, Representative Gomberg. As I said, we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for his efforts with the House of Representatives, and then that bill went over to the Senate, and actually I believe that bill was carried by Senator Roeblen. Now, Senator Roeblen is unable to be here today. There was talk that perhaps his Chief of Staff might be able to make the attendance, but she's right here. We're pleased to have you, and thank Senator Roeblen for carrying the bill for us in the Senate. With that said, without the state legislature doing their job, we wouldn't be here. But if it weren't for a commissioner, your commissioner Bill Hall, stepping up and talking to his colleagues and actually funding these signs, we wouldn't be here either. So at this point in time, I would like to introduce Commissioner Bill Hall.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. So many thank yous that are well-deserved to Steve and his committee, to our legislative champions, certainly to my colleagues, Commissioner Doug Hunt, who is here, and also Commissioner Terry Thompson, who could not make it. You know, the County Veteran Service Officer Program is an outstanding partnership between the counties and the states, jointly funded by both. A lot of people, I think probably most people here, but I'm always surprised to learn how many people think those folks are state employees or federal VA employees, but actually, of course, they're county employees. They're there to advocate for the men and women who have served, and we take very seriously, very deeply, our commitment to honor the living men and women who have served their nation, and also to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. So when I was able to present the request to Commissioners Hunt and Thompson to fund the manufacture and the placement of these signs, they offered a very quick and enthusiastic yes. So I thank them both. But of course, the biggest thank you of all is to the Johnson family for their ultimate sacrifice. And how really do you find words that can adequately sum that up? You really can't, but I turn to the most eloquent of all of our presidents, Abraham Lincoln. And you may recall one of the most famous letters in American history, the president's letter in 1864 to Mrs. Lydia Bixby. The president had been informed that all 5 of her sons had been lost in battle during the Civil War. All 5 of them had served. Actually, 2 had been killed in battle, but that certainly does not diminish the amazing words of comfort he offered to her in this letter. It's only a few sentences, so I'd like to read it now. Dear Madam, I have been shown in the files of the War Department a statement of the Adjutant General of Massachusetts that you are the mother of 5 sons who have died gloriously on the field of battle. I feel how weak and fruitless must be any word of mine which should attempt to beguile you from the grief of a loss so overwhelming, but I cannot refrain from tendering you the consolation that may be found in the thanks of the Republic they died to save. I pray that our Heavenly Father may assuage the anguish of your bereavement and leave you only the cherished memory of the loved and lost and the solemn pride that must be yours to have laid so costly a sacrifice upon the altar of freedom. Yours, very sincerely and respectfully, Abraham Lincoln.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. And now we're going to call on General Inyart to come and speak a few words, a two-star general who understands military service and sacrifice.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's a great turnout. It was a great team effort to make this happen today, and it's good to see everyone here. I'm only going to talk for a few minutes because I'm not a politician and I don't have a prepared speech, but something that came up, as this was going together of remembering the ones that have fallen before us and gave the ultimate sacrifice. Freedom is not free, and it is shown right here. And it's affected the families that are involved with these brothers that are here. I'm very proud to be here and to see this, and I'm very proud of our state to remember the ones that we have lost. As I was thinking back on the time that I had in the military, I deployed several times to Afghanistan. I was a battalion commander at one time, and I trained a whole bunch of troops getting ready to go to war. They went to war. I can count on my hands 8 people that I lost that I personally knew that was under my command in Afghanistan or Iraq. So it affects people. It affects everyone. And as you look through time and history, you go back to World War II, you got this big circle of people that have passed or died on one way or another in the war. And as the wars go on, you have the Korean War and the Vietnam, and you got Afghanistan, and you got Iraq, and now you have all these people that have died in combat, and everybody's affected more now than they ever have been before. Whether it's a relative or a good friend, we've come more closely to the fallen than we ever have before in our history. And that goes along with Representative Gomberg said, is there's more veterans out there than ever before, and it's going to continue on as we go through all these different conflicts and things that we have that's probably going to come in the future. But again, thank you very much for showing up. As you can see, I'm not in a military uniform. This is my Halloween outfit. I'm getting ready for that. I got one last thing. I had to carry that coffee pot from the car over here. It was heavy. I expect it to be lighter when it goes by. Thank you.
Give you a little bit of background about the Johnson family. A lot of people have said, well, I don't remember the Johnsons. Well, I don't either. I never met them because I never lived in Toledo. But I'd like to give you a little bit of history about the Johnson family. Louis and Helen Johnson had 4 children. Charles, who died in 1968. He had a little sister, Callista. She died in 1996. Little brother Gordon died in 1985. And Clifford died in 1970. We don't know what happened to Louis. All of our research after the death of Charles, we just can't find anything about Louis. We don't know where he went. We don't know what he did. Helen buried all 4 of her children. She lived to 2005. Her granddaughter buried her. Callista married Stephen and Leah. They had a daughter named Shannon. Callista died in 1996, and Shannon lived with Grandma and helped Grandma. Shannon died in May of 2016. There are no survivors. This branch of the Johnson family tree is dead. And as Representative Gomberg referenced, it's because of the Vietnam War. Ladies and gentlemen, war is terrible. It's terrible. It was terrible in the jungles of Vietnam, but it came home and affected our communities. It affected the lives of many of our families. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, the Johnson family needs to be remembered. They need to be remembered, and thank you for coming and standing for the Johnson family today. Give yourselves a hand. With that said, we have copies of House concurrent resolution 30. The first copy we're going to present to Commissioner Bill Hall with the admonition that you have it displayed in a prominent place in the county courthouse so that people of Lincoln County, when they come in, they can read that and remember the Johnson family.
Happy to do that.
The other we're going to present to Tony Molina, a former commander of the American Legion, and he's going to work with the American Legion to have it on display, perhaps in the bingo room, so whenever people are playing bingo, they can remember the Johnson family.
Hold them up.
You want to?
Sure.
And with this, I ask each and every one of you to share the Johnson story. Let us perpetuate the memory of the Johnson family. Let us remember what war means and what war does. And I thank you for coming, and this will conclude our ceremony this morning, with the exception of this. Charles Eugene Johnson's sign will be positioned westbound 110 feet from the left turn into the eastern junction into Toledo. Clifford will be facing eastbound 110 feet this side of the right turn to go into the mile 7 turnoff into Toledo. So look for those signs. They'll be up, I believe ODOT said sometime next week. And I want to thank ODOT for their assistance for being here today and bringing the signs so that we can see them and actually have a dedication ceremony. And thank you very much.
I'd like to add a good friend of mine, Pam Cole. She rode the school bus with Cliff and Charles every morning, right, Pam?
Clifford.
Clifford.
She's a smiling face every morning.
So she is one witness that they were here in Toledo. And I was fortunate enough to meet their mother in 1990, Helen Johnson. She made it a point that I made sure we placed their names in the Newport Memorial.
Thank you for coming. Feel free to come and take pictures of the signs.